you have the choice to change your life in any single way that you wish to do so. If you are committed to constantly becoming the best version of yourself, then you care about what you're putting in your body, you care about the people you're surrounding yourself with, you care about the soil that you're putting your hands in on a daily basis, you care about the things that are bettering you as a person, and every single challenge in life becomes a growth opportunity. Aloha, my friends. My name is Kristina, otherwise known as FullyRaw Kristina, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Becoming vegan has been a mind, body, and spirit journey for me. It has been a path of awakening that's not only been physically healing, but also emotionally healing for me as well. From the time that I was 14 to 16 years old, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, hyperglycemia, meaning that I had very high blood sugar. For me, this looked like having high and low blood sugar spells, fainting spells, chronic constipation, low energy dips, and so much more. You name it, I had all of the symptoms of being a diabetic, but with also hyperglycemia as well. And from the time that I was 14 to 16 years old, I saw my health decline rapidly. When I was 18 years old, I'll never forget, I had hit rock bottom in my life. I remember I had just gone to the hospital. They had IVs in my arm. They were treating me and they were trying to help me move forward from this chronic illness. And I'll never forget, when I left the hospital that day, I was in a natural grocer's and I was digging through the sugar-free granola when I had a stranger come up to me and tap me on the shoulder and ask if I was a raw vegan. And he started telling me all about juicing and vegan food and recipes and all of these fruits and vegetables that he'd eaten at the time, that he'd been a raw vegan for, I think, 18 years at the time. And I sat there and I listened with open ears, even though in my mind I was thinking to myself, I've never heard about anything like this. I didn't even know what a vegan was, to be honest. I barely understood what vegetarian was. I was 18 years old, and this was Texas 16 years ago. So think about being in Texas 16 years ago. People were just starting to get into recycling, much less understanding what vegetarianism was or veganism was. So once I got out of the hospital and I decided that I hit rock bottom as an 18-year-old and I had to try something different because I did not want to live the rest of my life sick and tired, I called up the man who had approached me in the grocery store and I said, look, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of being sick and tired. Can you just tell me everything that you know? And I'm willing to do it. And he ended up meeting me at a grocery store later on that week and spent hours with me just explaining to me why eating fruits and vegetables can heal your life. And I was so young at the time, so this for me was a huge blessing, right? Like just getting to understand, to know, to hear this information. And I'll never forget, he said, do you want to try this? Do you want to go raw and vegan? And I just remember thinking to myself, I can't. I am a diabetic. I can't eat fruit. You're asking me to eat fruit? And he said, yep, fruit's not the problem, actually. It's the fat that's the problem, and it's all these other lifestyle factors that are contributing to your sickness and your illness. But we can turn this around. And so he challenged me. He said, I want you to pick your favorite fruit. And at the time, I didn't have a favorite fruit, which is an indicator of how disconnected I was from just eating real food. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw peaches. So I just said, all right, I choose peaches. And he said, all right, you're gonna eat nothing but peaches for 2 weeks straight. And I looked at him and my jaw just dropped. I was like, what? I can't just eat peaches for 2 weeks straight. Am I gonna survive? And he looked at me and he said, just try it. He's like, this is how much you need to eat each day. We'll set you up so that you're eating enough calories, you're consuming enough nutrients, that you're feeling full. And he showed me how to monomeal on fruits for a period of time so that I could not only reset my system, but also improve my digestion and elimination at the time. I remember after 3 days of eating nothing but peaches, my blood sugars began to stabilize. And I hadn't fainted. After a week, I started actually putting on weight. This for me was a big deal because at the time I was 87 pounds. I was emaciated, I was ill, I definitely didn't look well. And so for me to have seen such a positive impact in 1 week just from eating fruits was life-changing for me. It was the beginning of my entire journey. And for me, even though it started with health and wellness, it expanded far beyond that. That was just kind of my foot in the door to discovering this whole beautiful world of health, wellness, veganism, a body, mind, and spirit journey. This impacted me in such a way that I devoted my life. I changed my life course to be able to continue to share this message with people, because this information changes lives. This information can heal people. To think that I was an 18-year-old girl who was going to have to live the rest of her life in misery is unthinkable to where I am now. It took me 1.5 years to completely reverse my type 2 diabetes from the time that I began eating raw until the end of that period. But all I did was change my lifestyle. All I did was change my diet, start consuming more nutrient-rich foods, start incorporating more exercise and sunshine, nature, sleep. All of those things are what helped to heal me. And my goal has always been to pull people into this community so that they feel welcome, so that they can be on their health journey, but also to find a group of people that they feel supported around, that they can achieve a greater level of health with, and to have it be fun and cool and colorful. Because who doesn't want to feel good, and who doesn't want to live their best life? I know that I do for sure. I first attended Vanderbilt University. I was a ceramics major. If you can believe that, I had a full ride and even a grant for doing pottery. I wanted to be a potter growing up. And at that time, I was also a calculus and physics tutor. That was my side job, making it through college. I ended up transferring from Vanderbilt University to studying abroad in Costa Rica, to learning a little bit more about permaculture, to then transferring to Rice University. And when I went to Rice, I ended up adding on majors. I ended up getting 3 majors. So I had my Bachelor of Arts, and then I ended up also adding in kinesiology with a specialization in health science. I had many interests in college, and I was involved in many organizations. And one of the organizations that I was involved with was the Environmental Committee. Now, what's funny about this is that I don't remember having even joined this committee. I don't remember having run for president. I don't remember having any of those things. But I do know that me and about 4 to 12 other students started the first farmers market at Rice University on Tuesdays on campus at that time. And it was something that we were so passionate about. We were like, let's just call up all these farmers and get them to come, and all these students can come in between their classes and buy fruits and veggies, and how cool would that be? Our first farmers market, we only had 4 farmers show up, just 4. And they were small, tiny farms just trying to make their way out in the world. And I ended up becoming so close with one of the farms. And Gunderman Acres was their name. Mama Joan became like a second mother to me. She had 2 boys who were my age that became like my brothers. I would go and drive up and spend the weekends with them, and we'd pick peaches and figs and eat greens, and they were my home away from home when I wasn't attending school or working my job. And I ended up finding myself in a position where, being a raw vegan, I was going to the grocery stores and buying cases of produce to save money because I was living on a college budget, right? Through having done that for months at a time and having gotten exhausted of going to the farm, going here, trying to stock up on produce here and there and make it work for myself, I decided that I wanted to start a buyer's co-op of produce by the case in order to be able to get discounted cases of produce for me and my family. So really my initial idea to start this co-op was to be able to afford produce and to share it with my family. But what ended up happening is I ended up getting my foot into the door of a major retailer who was very supportive of me, and by a funny stroke of luck made an offer to me that he would deliver 40 cases of produce to my living room once every Thursday if I could get an order big enough that would fulfill this. And I just remember after that phone call, I was like, absolutely, I'll take 40 cases of produce. And then he sends me the list, and it was like 1 case of bananas was 40 bananas, 1 case of peaches was 64 peaches, and I had just committed to 40 cases of produce. So I had ended up calling up family members, friends. Hey, do you want to split up 40 cases of produce with me on a Thursday night? Come on over. We'll all just pay this much and we'll split it all up and we'll share this organic produce. And I even have some organic farmers who will bring some of their stuff in, and we'll make it a mix of organic and freshly sourced with also local, best sustainable quality you can find. And my first week doing this was so much fun. I'll never forget. I got back from class that day and I had some ladies in my neighborhood helping sort boxes with me. It was just fun. And I just remember after that first day and after that huge produce truck had left the front of my parents' house that I was living in at the time, I had neighbors calling me up and walking over. What was that truck of produce doing in front of your house that day? The next Thursday, I kid you not, I had 40 other people joining in to want to share in what was going on in my garage. So I went from feeding a small group of people to every single week having first 40 people pick up a box of produce out of my garage, then 50 people, then 60 people, and eventually 100 people were picking up boxes of produce out of my parents' garage by the time I was 21, 22, 23, who knows. And me and some of the ladies in my neighborhood ended up calling the co-op Rawfully Organic because the boxes were filled with raw fruits and vegetables. They were full to the brim because we were getting everything at a wholesale cost. We were paying 40% less than you would pay in the grocery store. So people were getting so much abundance, and everything was organic. So eventually the HOA kicked us out of my parents' house, and I moved into a neighborhood parking lot.
She's the ball of energy known as the Chief Goddess Cooperator.
Everybody gets two more.
Kristina Carrillo-Bucaram uses produce to produce one of the fastest growing organic and local food co-ops in the country.
And before I knew it, we had 300 families picking up out of the parking lot every week. And all of this, by the way, became my second, possibly my third job at college. I was still calculus tutoring and physics tutoring and SAT tutoring. I was still going to school and trying to do my 3 majors. And I'll never forget, the HOA of this parking lot ended up becoming upset that we were taking away business from a grocery store that was just down the street from us. I posted on our co-op page and I just said, I'm sorry everybody, co-op's gotta close. I'm disappointing everybody. We don't have anywhere to go. It was the sappiest message. I woke up the next morning. As soon as I checked my messages, I had calls from places and organizations all over the city of Houston saying, we love what you're doing. Come set up in our parking lot. Let's do this. It was, everywhere from the Houston Arboretum to the Museum of Natural Science, like big organizations that wanted to host what we were doing and to support this community. So I went from having 1 location 1 day a week to having 3 locations 3 days a week. And I did that for a decade after that point. And we ended up having 52,000 dedicated members in the Houston city limits who supported us, even some further beyond in Dallas and Austin. And for a good 6-7 years of time, we were the largest organic produce cooperative in the US. And when people ask me how I got my start, that was my start. It was the Texas community who uplifted me. I ran a farmer's market, essentially. People asked me what I did. I said, I was just a produce hustler, is what I called myself. But for me, it was something much more than that because I got to feed people, right? I got to hand hundreds of people every day a box of fruits and vegetables, sometimes thousands, right? Just getting to touch people with food. And I remember usually after long days of working, I would go to sleep at night envisioning me handing people boxes of light, right? Because in my mind, I wasn't just feeding them fruits or vegetables. They were gaining so much more information than just that. I would put recipe cards in the boxes, and eventually that turned into me having a YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel started because I was trying to educate my cooperative on how to use the items in their box and what they could make with them. But I quickly realized that people beyond my co-op needed this information, right? As soon as I started my YouTube channel, I had people in Japan commenting saying that they loved a smoothie recipe, they loved a juicing recipe. And I realized quickly that everybody needs this information, not just my tiny little bubble in Texas. that was the beginning of my journey in social media, but really my roots began in starting my produce co-op in Texas, and it will always have such a special place in my heart. My life changed significantly in 2016 when my co-op, my Rawfully Organic co-op, was forced to close. We went out of business in 1 week with an unfortunate turn of events that were not controllable. And it was devastating for me because that was, at that point in time, my baby, my life's passion, my community, my everything, right? Running that co-op had become my life in more ways than one. And at that time, I had had many employees, I'd had my farmers, I'd had my communities, I'd had connections, and it was all gone within 1 week. I had to let people go. I had to tell farmers we couldn't support them anymore. And this was a big deal because when I first started the co-op, one of our family farms only had 10 acres. But after that 11 years of supporting them, they had 500 acres and were growing for our community full time. So when I say that the level of devastation wasn't just mine, it was a whole community of individuals who felt that impact, much more beyond a monetary means and ways of supporting them, but it was our family, and it was almost as if it had gotten broken apart. And after everything was closed and the paperwork was signed and I had to let everybody go, I was doused in shame. I was drowning in shame, and I ran away to Bali. My friend called me and she said, I know that you are in an extreme amount of suffering and loss right now. Why don't you come stay with me in Bali? And I flew to Bali and ended up staying there part-time for 4 years, trying to mourn the loss of something that was my dream for so long that somehow just got ripped from my hands. That was the beginning of, I want to say, Kristina part 2, right? Like, we all go through different rebirths and deaths and rebirths in our life, and the cycle continues, but Kristina level 2 was just beginning to, I would say, what do you want to call it? Kristina level 2, Kristina part 2, KB2, I don't know. However I was leveling up on my journey, that was the beginning of it. And I'll never forget, Joe Cross called me up when I was there and was like, KB, it's time for you to get into retreats. You're good around people. You need to be around people. Social media is great for you, but you're a people person. You need to touch and feel and interact. And this is a part of what you do. If you can't be around people in a co-op, you need to be doing retreats. And so Joe was one of the reasons why I started doing retreats. And during that 4 years of me being in Bali, I was there part-time because I still was coming back to Houston to see my family. It was very difficult to not be around them, but for me, it was more painful to be in Houston because it was a constant reminder of something that I loved that I had lost. And when I went back to Houston, there was always somebody who was saying something that felt like it was opening up a deep wound for me. So I ended up living in Bali part-time for 4 years, starting a retreat business, depthening my social reach in different forms, and really, really loving that. So near the end of 2018, I had just hosted one of my last retreats there. I instinctively had this feeling that I couldn't be there forever and that I wanted to be in a place where I could grow my own food and manifest a different kind of abundance. I was also very ready to root and ground myself into a place that I called home after 4 years of having traveled back and forth between Bali and Houston and book touring and traveling all over speaking. And as I was looking for places to live, it ended up being Hawaii, right? A place that reminded me of Bali, that had soil where I could grow food and maybe even perhaps rebirth a baby of Rawfully Organic in the future somehow. I remember it was my birthday, 2017 or 2018, where I knew that I wanted to relocate myself, but I also wanted to relocate myself somewhere where I could be close enough to go and dip in and visit my family whenever needed, be closer to them. Bali was a 48-hour long trip. If something ever happened to my family, I wouldn't be able to be there in a jump, a skip, and a beat. And so I ended up, with the grace of God and by a huge blessing, being able to come across this property. This property was overgrown, not kept up to speed, and my goal was to bring this property back to life. Just so that I'm being very clear, everybody thought I was crazy by wanting to invest into this property, to invest my time and resources and my vision. But I saw this strip of land on this property that used to be an old pineapple plantation. And the second I saw it, I immediately thought in my head, this is it. This is the fruit orchard I want to build. What do you want to do with it? I have no idea, but this is what I want to do. And it called to me. And I started bringing people in and learning more about, okay, I have a background in permaculture. I have a background in organic farming. I have a background in this. But now we're in a new terrain on a different island with new soil, new plants. It's a whole different ballgame. And I immersed myself into learning about the soil, into growing tropical fruit trees here, exotic fruit trees. And this vision has slowly evolved into me growing an organic fruit orchard here. And it's become the most beautiful gift, right? If you would have asked me at the beginning of 2016 where I'd be, I would say I did not expect to be here. But I do feel like this has been a huge blessing and turn in my journey. So my goal with this property and establishing this fruit orchard is to continue feeding as many people as possible, not only with the actual physical food, but also with the education of what we're doing, teaching people why it's important to take care of your soil, how you can grow more food, how you can restore nitrogen back into the soil. At this moment in time, we've taken 9 acres and completely transformed it. We've removed 9 acres of buffalo grass. We've replanted sun hemp to restore nitrogen back into the soil, and we've planted peanut grass. And it's taken 2 years to do that, and we've just planted 300 fruit trees here on the orchard, and I still have room for approximately, probably about 300 more. So I would say that I'm still halfway where I want to be, but it's been a beautiful journey, and the goal is to continue to feed people and to teach about sustainability and well-being and this lifestyle. It's a blessing to say that I've lived so much life at the age of 35. I feel like I've been through 2 life-shattering experiences. I've hit rock bottom at least twice. My 2 biggest rock bottom experiences were when I feel that I almost died from diabetes, and then when I lost my co-op. And I've learned how to pick myself up and to move forward in both of those scenarios. And the thing is that I look forward to all of the blessings to come, because when I hit rock bottom at 18, if I would have known that I would have had a co-op and a beautiful community long after that, I mean, that was the biggest blessing I could have received. That was the best time of my life, you know? And having moved here, I feel like it is a fresh start. And that's the most beautiful part about evolving in life, is you get to evolve and change and connect and grow. And that's a part of becoming the best version of yourself. And for me, everything's connected, right? If you are committed to constantly becoming the best version of yourself, then you care about what you're putting in your body. You care about the people you're surrounding yourself with. You care about the soil that you're putting your hands in on a daily basis. You care about the things that are bettering you as a person. And every single challenge in life becomes a growth opportunity, right? And yes, there's always going to be experiences that crack you open in a different way and might be painful or might make you see things differently, but you still get to choose your perspective. You still get to choose how to move forward, whether you want to let something continue to punish you for the rest of your life, or if you want something to empower you moving forward. And I've definitely had my fair share of situations that could have broken me and I could have quit, right? But we don't. We keep moving forward, and even when things get tough or when you're learning new things, you take baby steps, right? So I didn't know what I was doing when I came here on the farm. I had a background, but being on a new property, new land, new soil, you're always taking baby steps and learning. And you can apply that to every area of life. So whether or not you believe everything is connected, I believe that it absolutely all is. When each of us takes care of ourselves, everyone around us is impacted in a more beautiful and positive way. We can uplift our communities and our families just by taking better care of ourselves and teaching others how to take better care of themselves. I believe that this is my purpose here, to share this message with you, and I just want to thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for sharing in this health and wellness passion with me, and I'm so excited for all that is to come. Is that good?